Alright, let's create this news homepage UI using ReactJS and Tailwind CSS. So let's go back to our VS Code and start creating. Now as you can see, I've already created a React tab, imported all the images that we need for this project. Along with, I've also installed Tailwind CSS for our styling and also predefined some of our properties like container and colors which we are going to use. So now what I'll do is create another folder and name it as components, and within this component folder I can create a file and name it as navbar.jsx. Now let's type here rafc. It will create a navbar component, and let's give a padding of, let's say, py of 5. Now if I go back to our design, as you can see, there is some spacing in top and bottom along with some spacing in right and left side. So I have created the spacing in top and bottom by giving py of 5. Let's add the spacing in right and left side. So div, change this div to a navbar. Alright, give a class name and type your container. Alright, now in the left side I have a logo, and in the right side I have some nav links. So let me import that. Now create a div. Now this div will have a left side and left side div, it will hold our logo. So to import our logo from our public folder, I can simply come here and write import logo from /logo svg, Control S, come back to my image tag and replace this double inverted comma with curly braces and simply type logo. Now if I go back, it will not be visible because in the app.jsx file I have to import navbar component. So navbar, now it will automatically import it. If I come back, now as you can see, our logo is visible. Now let's create the right side. Now what I generally do is, in the source folder I create a file and name it as data.js. Now what I can do is create an array of objects just by typing export const. Let's give the name as navlinks. Create an array of object. Now it will have id of 1, let's say title of home. It will be a string, so home. Alright, now select this and paste this 5 times. Now what we can do is change the id to its proper numbering. Alright, I've created an array of objects. Now I can import this array of objects in my navbar component and map over it. So let's create that. So in the right side I can create a div, or I can say I can create a UL, and in this UL tag I can simply write navlinks. Now this will import the navlinks from the data.js file which we created earlier, then map over it dot map. Now this will take a function, so let's say data and index, and do not use curly braces here, use the first bracket to avoid errors. So here I can simply write li, and within this li tag I can simply write data dot type. Now to avoid errors in mapping, we can give a key property of, let's say, index. Now this will help in avoiding errors. So if I go back, as you can see, our navlinks are visible. Now it's not aligned properly, so let me fix that. So to fix that, we can simply come to our UL tag and write class name flex justify between item center. Along with this, I have to give the flex property to its parent div also. So come here and give class name flex justify between item center. Now if I go back, as you can see, our navlinks are properly aligned. Now let's give some spacing in between them. So let's say gap of 5. Alright. Now if I come back to our final result, As you can see, if I hover over it, the text color changes to orange. So let me do that. So come back to our li tag and give a class property of text, let's say dark grayish blue. If I go back, now as you can see, our text is of this color. Now let's come back and give a hover property, hover text to soft orange. Now what are these colors? I have already predefined it in my tailwind.config file, so I can use it like this. Alright, let's a duration of 75. Now if I come back and hover over it, as you can see, it changes its colors to orange. Now we have to create the mobile navbar. So to do that, first I have to hide this UL tag. So initially it will be hidden, but whenever the screen size is above 768 pixel, it will be it will have the property of flex. So save it, and if I go back and inspect it, as you can see, it's not visible as the screen size is below 768 pixel. But if I increase the size, as you can see, now it's visible. Alright, now let's do one thing. Let's create the hamburger icon. So come back here, create another UL tag and give a class name of MD hidden. Now what this will do, whenever the screen size is above 768 pixel, it will hide itself. Alright, now I need this hamburger icon. As you can see, this one that I already have in my public folder, so simply import it. And to import that, again we have to go here and write import, let's say hamburger from slash icon dot menu dot svg. Duplicate it and change the name to hamburger close, and replace this menu with, and also add a close tag. Now this will, now save this. Now in my image tag, I can simply replace this double inverted comma and write hamburger. Now if I go back, as you can see, the hamburger is visible. Now what I can do is, I have to make some states to conditionally render my closing button. So let's create that state. Come back to our navbar component, right here, cons, let's say is menu, and we have to create a setter function. So set is menu, then use state and initialize it with false. Now we also have to create a function which will handle our toggle. So let's give a name of handle menu, and it's an arrow function, so keep the syntax correct. And here we can write set is menu and then not menu, not is menu. Now what this will do is, it will switch the states to the previous one. So copy this, come back to here, and here you can write on click change handle menu. Alright, now I have to conditionally render this image. So to do that, select this, and within our curly braces you can write if is menu is clicked, show me this image or else this image. Now change this to hamburger close and replace this and keep it hamburger. As you can see, now if I click on hamburger icon, you can see it changes it to close tag. Alright, now we have to create our mobile nav links. So to do that, come back to our VS Code. You can create a div, or you can change this to a UL, there is no issue. Alright, again within our curly braces type nav links, then we have to map it again. Alright, it will take functions, so data and index. You can name whatever you want, so there is no issue. Within this I can simply write li and then data dot title. Don't forget to give a key property, which is our index. Now what I can do is, give a class name to my UL tag of flex and flex call. Flex call, give a gap of, let's say, 5, and we have to conditionally render this UL tag. So to do that, select this, cut it, and similar to our hamburger icon, we have to write if is menu is clicked, show me this UL tag, otherwise show me nothing. So if I save it and go back, and if I click it, as you can see, our mobile nav links are visible. Now I have to make this nav links absolute, as I want to change its position. So come back here in the UL tag, make it absolute, and let's say top 0, right 0, and make our main div, which is this class name, which has a class name of py, as relative. Now what this will do is we can change the position of this UL with respect to that div. Now if I go back, now you can see it's dislocated from its position. Alright, now come back to our VS Code and give a, let's say, padding of 5 and py of, let's say, 40. And if I go back, as you can see, it has come down. So now let's do one thing, give a width of around 200 pixel. Alright, if I close this, and let's give a shadow property as well, so shadow MD. If I click this, as you can see, it's visible. Alright, now let's do one thing, that is make this height screen. Now if you see, it will take the whole screen height. Alright, now we have to change a thing, that is cut these elements, Control X, wrap it under a div, and give this div a z index of, let's say, 50. Now what this will do, home section and all, it will always stay above it. So alright, then save it, it will be alright. Now what we can do is, in our component folder, let's create a hero section. So create another file, name it as hero.jsx. Now type here rafc, and let's give a padding of 4, and don't forget to give a div, and then wrap it with a class name of container, and within this div we have to create our elements. Alright, now if we go back to our design, you can see we have an image in our left side. So this is our left side and this is our right side. So let's do one thing, let's go back and give a div, and under this div I have to create left side. So this left side div will have an image. So to do that, I can simply create a div and give an image tag and import our image from our public folder. So import desktop image, desktop img from slash, now type here the path, so that is image dot web3 dot desktop dot jpg, duplicate it and change this to mobile. Alright, and change this name also to mobile image. Now if I save, come back here and replace the inverted commas with curly braces, and we have to write desktop image. Now if I save this and go back, it will not be visible. Why? Because I have to import our hero section to my app.jsx file. So let's go back, hero section. Alright, hero. Now if I go back, now as you can see it's visible, but it's taking the whole container size. So to fix that, come back to our navbar.jsx file, Now this package is very helpful because now as you can see in the left side we have a paragraph with default setting, and in the right side we have a paragraph with balancer. So if I reduce the size, as you can see, it's unevenly distributing the words, but in the right side it's evenly distributing it. Alright, come back here, we have to import it. So balancer. Now within this balancer I have to copy our this. So Control C and Control V. Now if I save it and go back, as you can see it's visible, but the font size is less. So to fix that, I can come here and give a class name. Let's say font of, let's say text 5XL, font bold. Alright, now if I go back, as you can see it's visible, but I need to reduce its width to 50%. So width of, let's say half. If I go back, as you can see it's visible. Now let's increase this to 6XL. Alright, now as you can see it's looking similar. Now the font is different from the font I am using, so let's fix that. Now as this is our single page project, what we can do is come back here, and it has a similar background color. So we can come here and type here index.css, and in the index.css file we can write body and have a background color of this one, off white. So copy this and paste it here, and has a font and have a font family of Inter. Now let's go back to our hero.jsx file and let's change this to extra bold, I guess. This is alright. Now it's looking somewhat similar. Now let's make this paragraph. So to do that, come back to our VS Code, under below the balancer tag we can create a div. It will have a paragraph tag. Simply copy this and paste it. Alright, Alt Z. If I go back, as you can see it's visible, but we have to reduce the width of this to half. If I reduce it, alright, now as you can see it has come. Now if I go back, let's style this paragraph. So give a class name and say, let's say the font, let's say the text is dark grayish blue, font base, let's say the text size is around 16 pixel. So if I come back, as you can see it's, now let's do one thing, that is change this item center to items start. And if I go back, as you can see it's aligned properly. Alright, let's do one thing, increase the spacing between these two, between the image and this div. So to do that, come back here in the right side. So this is our right side. So in the left side you can see this is our balancer tag. So let's give a py of, let's say 2. If I go back, as you can see there is some spacing in between them. Alright, now let's create this button. So what I generally do is, in the component I create another file and name it as cta.jsx. Now why I created this is, if our application grows, we don't have to write our button tag again and again. We can simply call this and create it. So change this to a fragment and type here button. Now this button will have a title as a prop, and as you can see, now if I save this and come back to my hero.jsx file, below the paragraph I can simply import my CTA here and save it. Now this will not be visible because I have to give a title of read more. Alright, so this is a string, so change it. Now as you can see our read more button is visible. Now let's style it. So So go back to our CTA and let's say class name, padding y of let's say 3 and px of 4. The background color should be soft red. When you hover over it, the BG should change to black. Alright, now let's give a text color. So text of white, but alright, let's give a duration. Let's say 75. Now if I save this and go back, as you can see, our button is visible. Now let's give some spacing in between them. So come back here to my hero.jsx file and let's give a margin bottom of let's say 4 or 5. Alright, it's alright. Now let's reduce the padding top of let's say 2. Alright, now it's looking somewhat similar, but increase the gap. So come back here and let's say 8. Alright, now as you can see, it's looking somewhat similar. Increase the font size of the paragraphs. So let's say text LG. Alright, if I go back, let's say text base, and the font should be text base. Now margin 8. Let's save this, and as you can see, there is a spacing between them. Now let's do one thing. Now let's I've given a font weight of normal, that is 400. Now let's create this right side of the hero section. So to do that, come back here, close this left side and create another div. Alright, it will have a call span of 4 because this has taken 8, so total is 12, so 4 is left. Alright, the height will be full and it will have a BG of very dark blue. Now if I save this and go back, alright, as you can see, it's visible. Now let's give a gap in between them. So gap of let's say 5. Alright, the gap, as you can see, the gap is there. Let's give a padding of 4, let's say. Now whatever we write within this, it will have a padding of 4 from all the sides. So to create this, what we can do is, in the left side, I can simply come here and create another div and give a class name of let's say flex and flex call. Let's initially give a gap of 5 and create a div. Alright, it will have a h1 tag, so copy this, paste it, and it will have a paragraph tag, so copy this and paste it. Alright, now if I go back, now it's not visible because the text color is black, so let me change that. So this div, so this paragraph tag will have a class name and it will have a text of let's say dark grayish blue. If I come back, as you can see, it's visible. Let's change the heading also, class name, and let's say text color of soft orange. So if I save this and go back, you can see it has changed its colors and it's visible. So now let's do one thing, is above this div we can create another h1 tag, or let's say h3. Let's change this to h3 and create a new. Alright, now if I go back and change it and give a class name property and give a class property of text soft orange, font should be bold, text to let's say 2XL, and if I go back, as you can see, the new is visible. Alright, now this is a link, so change this to anchor tag. Now if I go back, now it is not initially orange color. When we hover over it, it changes its text color to orange color. So let's fix that. I have changed the h1 tag, I have changed the h tag to anchor tag, and let's do one thing. Give the initial text color to off-white, and in hover it will be text soft orange. It will take a duration of 75, and it will have a text, let's say 3xl. If I save this, come back here, alright, it's too big, so 2xl, and font will be bold. If I save this and go back, as you can see, we have created it. Now let's do one thing, copy this div and paste it 3 times. Alright, now we have to simply change this. Now as you can see, I have created it. So let's go back and see our result. Alright, now come back to our parent div of this div and give a flex and give a justify between property. If I go back and give a gap of 10, and we also have to give a border bottom, so give a class name here, and border and border bottom, and border is off-white, sorry, the border is dark, gray is blue. Copy this class name and paste it in the second div as well. So save it, and if I go back, alright, now let's give a padding bottom as well in the border section, so pb of 5, and let's see the result. Alright, let's increase this to pb of 10. Alright, now change the and give the padding bottom here as well. So now let's change this paragraph text size to, let's say, text of lg, so text lg. Now let's check it. Alright, now as you can see, it's visible, so simply copy this and paste it in both of the paragraphs. So if I go back, as you can see, it's visible. Now this anchor tag will have a cursor pointer property, so cursor pointer, so whenever we hover over it, as you can see, our cursor changes to pointer. Now let's do one thing. In our paragraph tag, let's give a margin top of, let's say, 5, and save it. Alright, now as you can see, there is a spacing between the title and the description. Now our hero section is done. Let's create this last section. Now as you can see, I have created an array of objects and also changed its names to nav links. Now let's go back to our component folder, create another file and name it as news.jsx, and type here arrayfc. It will create a news component and give a class name to the main div of, let's say, p of 4, and wrap a div with a class name of container. Alright, let's create a div which will have our grids, so class name grid, and grid calls 3. Alright, now under this div, I can simply, within my curly braces, import my news links from the data file and map over it. So it will take a function, so let's give a name data and index. Now within this, what we can do is give an image tag, replace the inverted comma with curly braces, and we can simply write data.image URL. Alright, and in the alt section we can write news links, news images, and we have to wrap this image tag with a parent div. So cut it, create a div, and now we can do this. Alright, create another div. Now it will hold our right part of this. So to do that, come back here, and under this div, what I can do is, let's take a paragraph tag and write data, and within curly braces I can write data dot, let's say, numbering, duplicate it. Now it will be data dot title and data dot description. Now I have created an extra socket. Alright, now if I save this and go back, it will not be visible because I have not imported my news in my app.jsx file. So import it. Right, now if I save this and go back, as you can see, it's visible. Alright, now as you can see, it's not aligned properly. So to do that, I can simply cut this and paste it here. If I go back, now as you can see, it's visible, but this is not aligned properly. So to fix that, I can simply come here, and within this div I can give a class name of, let's say, flex, justify between items, center, and give a gap of, let's say, 5. Alright, as you can see, it's visible. And let's change this item center to item start. Alright, now we have to decorate it. In the first paragraph tag, we can write class name, text of text, let's say base, font should be dark, text should be base, and the text color should be dark grayish blue. And if I check, alright, it's visible. Font should be bold. Alright, now increase the text size. So to increase it, simply write here LG is not good. Alright, now as you can see, it's looking somewhat similar, but the color is not this. Let's change the color to grayish blue. If I save this and go back, as you can see, it's looking somewhat similar. Now let's decorate the title tag. Alright, now as you can see, it's looking somewhat similar. Now let's make our project responsive. So to do that, come back here. This div will have a grid class only above large screen. So if I do this, if I save this and inspect it, now as you can see, this is not aligned properly. So now this will be flex, but the justify between will only happen in large screen. So if I see this, as you can see, it's aligned properly. Now let's do one thing. Give some spacing between these images. So let's give a MB of, let's say, 5. Alright, now as you can see, in smaller screen it will look like this. Alright, in mobile screen it will look something like this. So let's fix our home section. So come back to our home section here. Now let's fix our hero section. So to fix that, come back to our hero section, and this call span 4 will only happen in large screen, and change this to large screen as well, and this grid will only happen in large screen. If I save this, now if I do this, now as you can see, it's looking something like this. Alright, now let's do one thing. This is our main div. Let's do one thing. Let's give a margin bottom of 4, but in large screen the margin bottom will have, now in the large screen the margin bottom will be 0. Now as you can see, it will look something like this in mobile. Now as you can see, it will look something like this in mobile, but our navbar is not working correctly. So to fix that, I can simply come to my mobile navbar. I've given a z index of 50, and let's also make this absolute. Let's give a top of 5 and a right of, let's say, 8. And if I see, and let's give a BG here, background color of white. Right, if I see, alright, it's visible, but it's not aligned with our logo. So let's do one thing, top 8. Alright, now it's aligned. As you can see, it's working properly. Now this is how it will look in larger screen, and this is how it will look in smaller screen. Only last thing left, that is this desktop image will be only visible above MD screen. So initially it will be hidden, and MD block. Alright, duplicate it, change this to mobile image, and this will be hidden when the screen size is above 768 pixel. And if I save this and go back, and if my image reduces, now as you can see it's looking like this. Alright, now let's do one thing. This flex will only happen in medium or above screen. As you can see, it's looking like this. Now let's do one thing. In medium screen, the width will be half, but whenever the screen size is below medium, the width will be full. And similarly, copy it and paste it here as well. So if I go back, now as you can see, it's looking something like this. Now let's do a last thing, that is, let's give a MB of 4, and in medium screen or above, the MB will be 0. Now if I see, it's look like this. In medium screen it will be like this, in large screen it will be like this. Alright guys, we have completed our news homepage UI project using React and Tailwind CSS. Thank you again for watching till the last, and see you again in the next one. Till then, peace.